When a dog looks in the mirror, does it see itself or does it think there is another dog? When your cat looks at you, does it really know you are its owner or does it just see you as the big creature that brings food? Why does an elephant stand beside a dead friend? Is an octopus really solving a problem? Or is it just reacting? And when a fish is in pain, does it actually feel it? These questions sound simple, but they lead to one of the hardest mysteries in science. Do animals know they are alive? Not just awake, not just moving, not just reacting to light, sound, hunger, or danger, but actually experiencing the world from the inside. Because there is a difference between a body responding and a mind feeling. A phone can react when you touch the screen. A plant can turn toward the sun. A machine can detect a face, but we usually do not think there is anyone inside those things. Watching, feeling, wanting, fearing. With animals, the question becomes much harder. Because a dog is not a machine, a cat is not a plant, an elephant is not just a large moving body, and an octopus, with its strange arms and alien-looking eyes, can open jars, escape tanks, solve puzzles, and remember problems. So where do we draw the line? For a long time, many people drew it very close to humans. Humans were conscious, animals were instinct, humans had minds, animals had programming. If a dog cried, it was just noise. If a fish struggled, it was just reflex. If a bird solved a problem, it was just training. But the more scientists studied animals, the more that simple picture started to break. Because animals do not just react randomly. They learn, they remember, they avoid danger, they seek comfort, they recognize individuals, they play, they form bonds. Some even seem to mourn. But still, none of that gives us the full answer. A thermostat reacts to temperature. That does not mean it feels cold. So the real question is not whether animals respond to the world. Of course they do. The real question is whether there is something it feels like to be them. Something it feels like to be a dog recognizing a familiar human. A cat reacting to someone it cannot see. An elephant touching the bones of another elephant. An octopus hiding after a painful experience. A fish learning to avoid a place where something bad happened. This is what scientists usually mean when they talk about consciousness. Not intelligence, not language, not human-level thinking. Consciousness means there is an inner experience, a private world, a feeling. Pain is not just a signal. Fear is not just a movement. Comfort is not just a chemical reaction. At least, not for us. When you feel pain, it is not only your body detecting damage. It hurts. When you feel fear, it is not only your muscles preparing to run. You experience fear. So if an animal has consciousness, then its life is not just behavior seen from the outside. There is also an inside. But proving that is extremely difficult, because animals cannot sit in a lab and say, yes, I am aware of myself. They cannot explain what red looks like. They cannot describe fear in words. They cannot tell us whether they understand death, ownership, memory, or the future. So scientists have to look for clues. And the clues are everywhere. Start with the animals closest to us. Dogs clearly recognize familiar humans. Not in the abstract human way of saying, this is my legal owner. A dog probably does not think in that kind of language. But a dog can build a picture of you from many signals at once. Your scent, your voice, your face, your routine, your footsteps, and even your emotional tone all become part of the same familiar pattern. To a dog, you may not be owner as an abstract concept. You may be the predictable center of its world. The person who returns, the person who feeds, the person who opens the door, the person who makes the world feel safe. That may not sound like human self-awareness, but it is not nothing. Cats are even more interesting because they often act like they do not care. But studies suggest cats can recognize their owner's voice and even seem to mentally map where the owner should be. In one experiment, cats heard their owner's voice coming from one place and then suddenly from a different place. Some cats reacted with surprise as if the location did not make sense. That does not prove cats think, this is my human owner, but it suggests they hold a mental representation of you when you are not visible. In simpler words, your cat may have a version of you inside its mind, which is both sweet and slightly insulting because it may still choose to ignore you. But recognizing others is not the same as recognizing yourself. That is where the mirror test comes in. The idea is simple. Put an animal in front of a mirror. See if it treats the reflection as another animal, or realizes, that is me. Some animals have shown evidence of mirror self-recognition. Great apes, dolphins, elephants, magpies, and more controversially, cleaner fish. But the mirror test has a problem. It is very visual. It assumes the animal cares about mirrors. others. A dog may fail the mirror test not because it has no self-awareness, but because dogs understand the world more through smell than vision. A cat may look in a mirror, see another cat, and decide that the situation is not worth its time. So passing the mirror test is fascinating, but failing it does not mean the animal is an empty machine. Self-awareness may not be one switch. It may be a ladder. At the bottom, there is basic sentience, the ability to feel something: pain, comfort, fear, hunger, stress, pleasure. Then there is perception. The animal has a world around it. It can notice things, remember places, recognize individuals. Then there is emotion. Not necessarily human emotion with words and stories, but real internal states that guide behavior. Then there is social awareness. Who is friend? Who is dangerous? Who belongs to my group? Who is missing? Then there is self-awareness. My body, my reflection, my memories, my place in the group. And at the highest level, maybe there is narrative self-awareness, the kind humans have when we tell ourselves a story about who we are, what we were, and what we might become. Most animals probably do not live with that kind of inner narration. Your cat is probably not lying in the sun thinking, "What is the meaning of my existence?" But that does not mean your cat feels nothing. It may simply have a different kind of consciousness, less verbal, more sensory, more immediate, more built from smell, sound, movement, hunger, safety, fear, and attachment. This is where elephants become hard to ignore. Elephants have been observed returning to dead elephants, touching bones, investigating bodies, and sometimes staying near the dead. We have to be careful. We cannot simply project human funerals onto them. An elephant is not writing poetry about mortality, but something is happening. They are not treating the dead like ordinary objects. They notice, they investigate, they respond differently. Maybe this is grief, maybe it is confusion. Maybe it is social memory. Maybe it is all of these in a form we do not fully understand. And then there are octopuses. Octopuses are especially strange because they are not close relatives of us. They did not evolve their intelligence on the same path as mammals. Their nervous system is built differently. Much of their processing is spread through their arms. They can solve problems, explore objects, escape enclosures, remember places, and show flexible behavior. And studies on octopus pain are especially important, because pain is not just pulling away from something harmful. That can be reflex. But when an animal avoids a place where pain happened, protects an injured area, and prefers a place associated with pain relief, it starts to look like something more than automatic reaction. It starts to look like the animal does not just detect damage. It may experience it. Fish raise the same uncomfortable question. For a long time, many people assumed fish were too simple to feel pain in a meaningful way. But fish can learn, remember, avoid threats, respond to harmful stimuli, and show complex behavior. Some studies even suggest certain fish may recognize themselves in mirror-related tests, though this remains debated. And even if fish do not have self-awareness like humans, that is not the same as saying they feel nothing. This is the main mistake people make. They ask, are animals conscious like humans? But maybe that is the wrong question. A better question is, what kind of consciousness might this animal have? A dog's world may be built from smell. A bat's world from echoes, a bird's world from movement, memory, and space, an octopus's world from touch, color, texture, and problem-solving arms, a fish's world from water pressure, pain, movement, and danger, a bee's world from flowers, light, direction, and dance-like information. None of these worlds are human, but that does not mean they are empty. In 2012, a group of scientists signed the Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness, arguing that humans are not unique in having the brain structures needed for conscious experience. They specifically pointed to mammals, birds, and even octopuses. Then, in 2024, the New York Declaration on Animal Consciousness went further. It said there is strong scientific support for consciousness in mammals and birds, and a realistic possibility of conscious experience in all vertebrates and many invertebrates, including octopuses, crabs, and insects. That does not mean every animal is conscious in the same way. It does not mean a bee thinks like a dog. It does not mean a fish thinks like a child. And it definitely does not mean animals secretly speak English in their heads. But it does mean the old idea of animals as empty instinct machines is becoming harder to defend. So do animals know they are alive? Some probably know more than we once imagined. Many likely feel pain, fear, comfort, stress, and pleasure. Some recognize individuals. Some remember the past. Some solve problems. Some seem to understand their own bodies. A few may even recognize themselves. But most animals probably do not know they are alive in the human way. They may not think, I am an individual being with a past and a future. They may not ask what death means. They may not wonder why they exist. Their consciousness may be smaller, stranger, more fragmented, or more sensory than ours, but smaller does not mean unreal. Different does not mean empty. A cat may not understand ownership, but it may know you. A dog may not understand death, but it may miss someone who is gone. An elephant may not have human religion, but it may feel the absence of another elephant. An octopus may not have a human self, but it may still have a private world. And that changes the question. Because if animals have even simple inner experiences, then they are not just things moving through nature. They are subjects. They are lives. Not human lives, not equal minds, not tiny people in fur, feathers, scales, or shells, but minds of some kind. And maybe the most dangerous assumption was never that animals are exactly like us. Maybe the dangerous assumption was that because they cannot explain their minds to us, there is nothing there to explain. Maybe animals do not think in words, but maybe the mistake was assuming that silence means emptiness.